Good afternoon. I am Jack Long, the mad scientist, and I have a video that answers the #1 question that people ask me all the time is what is the best edge bander and why? So I put together a little bit of a video. It's kind of a long one. I did it while I had an opportunity here, trying to get ahead of the show for people that's going out to the Vegas show. I am unfortunately not going to be able to, for starters, get back in country in time, and secondly, when I do get back in country, I'm not going to have enough time to sit down and properly edit the video the way that I want to, because let's face it, I'm a machine guy. I'm not a camera guy or actor. You know, with this face, do you think I would make any money with my looks? So I put that together. Please bear in mind it is rough. It was edited on my phone, but I wanted to get something out to you so that when you head into these shows that you have some ideas what it is that you're looking for, okay? And as always, guys, have a great day, and let's go make a million. Good morning, everybody. I want to take a moment to discuss a question that has come to me for many times. I am currently at the beginning of a vacation, so I have no machines around me, no phone calls, no people, nothing to bother me, so I thought I would address the question that I get quite a bit. What is the best edge bander, or any other machine for that matter, and why do I think so? Well, I appreciate the question. That is an impossible one to answer. For starters, pardon me. For starters, when it comes to edge bander, there is no such thing as a quote-unquote best machine. The reason for that is that all edge banders are pain in the butts, regardless whose it is. They all are a pain in the butt. There are some that are better than others, there are some that are worse than others, but going back and forth, and everybody says, well, which one do you see the most? And that answer is, I don't know. They're always broken. I never see a machine unless it's brand new. I never see a machine unless it's broken. So it's unfair for me to say that this machine is better than this machine is better than this machine, because of the nature of what I do. There isn't a real answer to that. So everybody asks, of course, the logical next question. Well, which one do you see the most? I don't know. The reason for that is because I have a reputation for working on edge banders and panel saws and other machines like that, because I know them so well, I tend to see a lot of any one particular brand, and because of that reputation, I usually see the ones that other people can't fix. So that's kind of a loaded question. So if you're coming back and you're saying, hey, I want to put money down on the table, I want to go out and I want to go buy my own edge bander, what can I get? Now, I can tell you back in the day when I was a cabinet maker and I was struggling for money, my edge bander was literally a clothes iron with pre-banded tape, and I could barely afford that. So I empathize with everybody who is budget minded, and I also have been fortunate to work for billion-dollar cabinet companies, and if I had the choice, I would rather go back and work for myself using a clothes iron than a billion-dollar company. Whole different reasons, different stresses and everything, but I digress. Getting back to it, so when you're asking me about dollars and cents, what do I recommend? You have to sit back and look at yourself and say, when I get an edge bander, am I capable of fixing it? That's the big thing, because every edge bander has constantly got to be nursed, and it don't matter whose it is. It could be a clothes iron, or it could be a $250,000 stream from BSing. It doesn't matter. Edge banders are the most picky machine, period. There is no pickier machine in a wood shop. Now, we could argue finishing, and I would argue back with you, finishing is an art. It's not a machine. But the characteristics are the same. Is it hot? Is it cold? Is it rainy? Is it sunny? Is it Monday? Is it Tuesday? Is your wife upset with you? All that matters with an edge bander. So the question, it comes back to it, is when I buy an edge bander, which one is going to service for me the longest and the most consistently and with the least amount of trouble? And when it does give me trouble, what do I do to fix it? If, for instance, you lived in the Charlotte area, Charlotte, North Carolina, in the United States, if you're from outside the country, you would be crazy not to consider going and seeing the Holz-hers or the BSEs or the Jeebens down at Anderson Router. If you were up in Michigan, for instance, you would be crazy not to go see Styles. And if anybody knows, I am not a Styles fan, and that's a whole different reason we won't get into today. But you would be crazy not to consider them because their support services is built right there. In Atlanta, you got SCM. And out west in Las Vegas, you got Ed Moran over there at VTM. And so when these machines come together and you need support services and you have to fly a technician to use, where's that tech coming from? Is he coming from halfway across the country, and I'm happy to travel to you, just so you know? Or is he going to get in a car? Is he going to drive? What is your shop location at? If you're in the northern United States, southern United States, eastern, western, at some point you're going to have to bring in support services to assist you. When that happens, it's expensive, basically. And yes, I realize that I am basically saying, that is what I do for a living. But I am expensive. I'm an expense that if you can avoid not having it, it's best not to have it. And I'm perfectly willing to acknowledge that. That being said, at some point, if you've got an edge bander, you're going to have to do it. That's just the way it is. So when you're going out and you're looking at, do I go out and I buy a $3,000 edge bander that I buy someplace off the internet at an auction, but it's going to cost you $5,000 to $6,000 to get trained on it? Am I not better off going out and buying a $20,000 edge bander and putting that same $5,000 in training into it? So one thing I can tell you about a used edge bander is that at some point you're going to have to put parts into it. When you go to put those parts into it, they get expensive. And when you're shipping them in and you are unfamiliar with it, if it's a simple edge bander or you're extremely mechanically inclined, well, then you're already a world ahead. But when you get into some of these bigger machines that came out of an industrial setting and somebody has taken it out of service because they can no longer justify keeping it in service, say for parts, for instance, it could be an older machine and the parts are getting obsolete. When you start to take in that consideration, is the machine aged? When the machine needs parts, are the parts coming out of Italy? Are they coming out of Germany? Are they coming out of China? And I'm not against Chinese machines or anything, but the reality is a lot of these Asian machines are using, I don't want to say questionable, because that is rude to their amount of engineering that goes into their product. But nonetheless, a lot of these parts are not in the U.S. So when you're bringing these things in, if my edge bander goes down and it's down for a month, what is more expensive? Going out and buying a $5,000 machine I had to pay $5,000 to get trained on, and I had to go out and pay $5,000 for parts, and I had to wait for 6 to 8 weeks for it to get in. And then, while all that's going on, I had to make schedule for the technician, whoever that technician may be, to arrive. And if it takes them 2 or 3 or 4 weeks, because we have our schedules as well, suddenly now this machine that you got at a bargain price has cost you more money than if you just went out, spent the extra money on the front end and bought a decent used machine. So not trying to tell you what to buy, because some of the German machines, I like them just fine. Some of them are a little bit hard to work on because they're starting to get aged, but some of them are so smart that when it's time to service them, that the only people that can service them is the manufacturer, because they put them behind passwords and stuff like that, and the manufacturers now, because of basically the turns in the economy back in 2008, 2009, the manufacturers have become very tight on all their information that they share with us out here in the field. And I'm very fortunate. I've been doing this for almost 29 years, so I know a lot of people, and I can get information shared with me that a lot of people don't have access to, and that's just a convenience that I have. So I share that information back with my other colleagues, and it goes back and forth. We share stuff, but the newer guys coming into it just don't have that access, because basically the manufacturers, the importers, they've had to tighten up on everything, because it's just the way the world went. I don't like it, but that's the way it went. That all gets back into when I was mentioning it. I don't care for the styles. It's not against the technicians. It's not against the sales staff. It's against the way the corporate entity runs, and I just don't care for their attitude. They didn't want to play with me when I was young, and I don't want to play with them when I'm not young. So it's just the way it goes. But if you have one of their machines, I'd be happy to work on it with you and give it my best college effort. So heading back down into the next step through, when you're buying these machines, one of the things that you need to think of as you're moving forward is resale. And when you go into your resale, you want to think of a couple things. Let's say that you go out and you buy a machine, and this serves your purposes very, very well. And as you're going through and you're using your machine, and you decide that you want to upgrade, couple things you want to take in mind is that we have in America, we have our two big trade shows, the Atlanta show in the summer of the even years, and then we have the AWFS in the August, late July, August. I'm not exactly sure, because that show's outside of my regions, and since I'm not with the manufacturers anymore, I don't go play at that show. It's of zero gain for me other than taking a vacation, and if I'm going to take a vacation, I'm going to Asia. So with that being said, when those shows come up and they're starting to move quote unquote new steel, new iron, all the old iron starts to filter its way back out into the market. So you can pick up some of these really nice used machines, and usually right around the show time. And if you're in the market for a new machine, you would be crazy to go out and buy a brand new machine in, say, May, June, July, something like that, without the consideration of going to a show. Now, I know when I just said that, all my dealers have just now hit the unlike button and probably unsubscribe. But here's the thing. You can go onto these dealers and you can say, hey, look, I want to buy this machine, this machine, this machine, and talk to them about getting the show price and stuff like that. And you can sometimes work out with them that they can take your machine to the show. They can demo the machine, because that guarantees to them that that machine has a home, and they gain the inventory on the floor, something to show the quality of the machines and everything. You gain a machine, you own the machine, they gain the sale. It's a win-win for everybody. Otherwise, they take these machines on speculation and they hope that they can sell them. A lot of times they'll bring customers in because it's cheaper to bring them to a show than it is to fly them halfway across the country for a demo. That kind of stuff there. So when you're heading into it, you would be wise to use the shows to your negotiation considerations. After that, one of the things that you're going to want to consider is what happens to the machines that's being replaced. A lot of times, the dealers and the manufacturers don't want to bring these older machines in on trade, because now they have got to find a home for it. So if, let's say for instance that I'm bringing in a brand new Chihisa, for instance, nice little small machine, simple, robust, not super sophisticated. If I had a small shop, I would love one, because the little things are bulletproof. But they're not terribly fast. It's a trade-off, you know. If I had $1 million, I would certainly go buy one of the big boys, one of the big big like the big VSEs or something like that nature. So when you got these trade-offs and you're going back and forth and you take this knowledge and you're going to these shows, like I said, the older machines are being recycled back out into the market. And with that being said, if the end customer, the one purchasing a machine, is changing brands, the dealers and certainly the importers don't want anything to do with their competition. They don't want the hassle of moving the steel. They don't want to store it. They don't want anything to do with it because it's a lose-lose-lose on multiple facets unless they already have a market for it, which is where you come in. So you talk with these guys and you say 2-3 months before our big shows, and you start reaching out to your dealers and you say, hey, I'm out in the market and I'm looking for something as I'd like to have it up by October, for instance. That gives them some leveraging, some working room to build that relationship, for starters, with you. Hopefully you already have that relationship with your dealers. But it gives you a working relationship back and forth because now they know what is available, and it may be 2 states away. It may be working with a dealer that is their competition, so to speak, but 2 states away. But these guys all talk, so they know what's out there, or at least they have a pretty good idea of it. Once that filters its way up to the importer level, then they have a pretty good idea. So going to these shows, you can make use of these shows, not just to go in and see what the pretty little, the bling bling that's going on at the shows. Okay, so keep that in mind. Use the shows to your advantage, even if you're not going to attend a show. All right, so the last thing I want to talk about on edge banders, and this one, I hear this usually on the conversations with people that I don't want to call them dumb, because that's the wrong word for it. They're ignorant is the way I would put it. Ignorant to the use of a pre-mill. And a pre-mill, for those of you that know this, go ahead and skip through to the end because this is stuff you already know. If you don't, what a pre-mill is the very first station on an edge bander. And most of your bottom end economy edge banders don't have them. And they don't have them because they're expensive. They're an expensive station to put on. They're a significant portion, 15, 20, 25% of the cost of machines on that front end. Depending on how big the machine is and how many stations they have, stuff like that. One of the things that you will hear at shows, or when you go and meet the dealer or the vendor, or at some point through the sales process, that you will hear it say to you that what you can do is take a bad edge and rerun it through the machine, and you don't have to strip anything off. You just feed it through. If it's bad, you just rerun it. And back 30 years ago, when they were not quite so popular but were coming out, the pre-mills is like a later addition to the machines. That was true back when we used to use carbide knives. But now we use diamond tooling on those two motors. It's 1 station, 2 motors. That diamond tooling is extremely brittle. And when you feed a board through and it hits that diamond tooling, it will destroy that diamond tooling. And when I say destroy it, I mean in a very short order. If you were running, say, 1/2 mil wood veneer, probably would never know it. You may be able to run 1,000,000 feet, as an example, through it and never see any blemishes whatsoever to your diamond tool. But if you took a piece of 3mm ABS or PVC and you rerun that edge back through your diamond in a very short linear footage, and when I say short, I mean like less than 30 feet, 40 feet, 50 feet, depending on how much you're eating off, that diamond will, not only will it be destroyed, the entire head will have to be sent off and be serviced, unless you have one of the little insert ones. But nonetheless, the diamond is so hard, so brittle, when it hits that hard PVC or plastic laminate, for instance, which is even worse. When it hits that, it just chips it. And so people get upset, usually at people like me, because they go in and they're told, I can use this to strip off my bad edges. And my response to that is 2 things. Is 1, I don't want to call the dealers slash machine vendors liars, but I'm going to say they were mistaken, because maybe they said that, maybe they didn't. The other side of it is, I don't want to say that the person who purchased it is wrong, but maybe they heard what they wanted to hear, because we do that. All of us do that. It's human nature. So between the two, you get a sales guy that is new, for instance. Maybe he's only been doing it for 6 months or a year, or some guys I even question if they're qualified at that point. But nonetheless, they may misspeak, and the customer, because the customer has that new car, that excitement. I'm getting a new machine. We hear what we want to hear. And that is usually something that goes right past, between the two of them. It doesn't get caught till somebody like me steps up into the field and says, whoa, whoa, whoa. That's not true. So when that happens, they usually get irritated about it. You mean I had to strip this off? Yes. Or you're going to be buying $2,000 and $3,000 set of heads every 30 or 40 feet, which usually gets them to change their ways. But at the same time, they get really irked about it, because somewhere along the line was miscommunication. The other thing in regards to pre-mills is, do I want to spend the money? Say it's $12,000. That's a lot of money to me. I don't know about you guys. That's a lot of money to me. That's more than my damn truck cost. That was half of what my first house was. Do I want to go out and spend this money on an edgebander, and maybe I'm only going to use it for a few hours a week? Do I want to spend that money and use it? The quality of the joint that's produced afterwards is significantly different and better than running without pre-mill. Pre-mills have taken a long time to infiltrate their way through, to the point now where there's more machines with pre-mills than without. And that's a good thing, because it makes it more of a common knowledge situation. Back when I was an operator slash cabinet maker, in that time frame, pre-mills weren't around, because it was a different time. We're talking the late 80s, early 90s. We just didn't need them. And now we're using routers. We're doing more European styles, PVCs, that stuff there. We need that quality that's given to us by pre-mill. The other side of it is, if I had the option of buying one and I never turned it on, but I was going to use this as a stepping stone to get to my next machine, I'm using it as a stopgap, I would buy that pre-mill, because the pre-mill is going to be valuable in the future. 3 years, 4 years, 5 years. As pre-mills become more accepted, it's going to be harder to move machines without pre-mills, in my opinion. So as you're moving forward, it's easier to resell it because it's got it on there. It's like buying a car. As an example, let's say you live someplace that you only used air conditioning in your car for 3 or 4 weeks. Why put an air conditioner on the car? Well, because maybe the next person that buys the car, when you sell it, wants air conditioning. So you buy it and you put it on there and you use it for that kind of reason. So you're going to get it for resale. So that should be a consideration, whether it's the final consideration, but at least you know it's there. So something else, the last thing to keep in mind. So you go to these shows. All the years that I worked at these shows, something that would always drive me crazy is a customer comes up and they say, I want a machine that you do not have to constantly adjust. And I can tell you 100% that machine does not exist. Ever. Anywhere. Bar none. Does not matter. The reason why is because edge banders, by the nature of what they are very, very finicky. And when I go through and I'm doing my training with these guys, and I'm training somebody, and they have no idea how sensitive they are, plus or minus 0.05 when we're setting up the machine, we run tolerances tighter than that. And for those of you that's in inches, that's 0.02 of an inch or less. So what happens when you set these machines up is the substrates, which was at one time alive, will move. And maybe that's because you cut everything on a Thursday, you started running it on Friday, and it laid half exposed in your shop, and it rained Saturday, Sunday, Monday. You come in and run it on Tuesday, that substrate will certainly expand and will cause your machine to do something different. So when people talk to you about edge banders and they tell you that an edge bander will change even within the course of the same day, that you have to go in and make small adjustments to the machine, they're not kidding you. Now, whether or not those adjustments are something you can live with, maybe they're just being overly finicky, or maybe there's something going on in the underlying conditions that need to be worked with. But when you go to these shows and you say to somebody, I want a machine that I never have to touch, if you say that in front of a sales guy and they respond with you, oh, once you set our machine up, you just walk away from it, you never have to touch it again. Every single technician, every single machine engineer that's around you just did a facepalm, because it is absolutely not correct. Now, I'm not going to say they're lying to you, but it was not true. It is not correct. There are times when the machine will run absolutely perfect. You may run it for 3 or 4 or 5 weeks and never touch the thing. And there are days when you'll come in and everything you do is wrong. That's what the training comes in for. Every machine has to be touched. And I sat in a meeting, actually overheard, because I was making coffee in the room next door. And one of the big importers told my billion-dollar customer that I, at that point, was contracting for, oh yeah, you set this $250,000 edge bander in place and you never have to touch it. And once that $250,000 edge bander was in place, my little $100,000 Frivol ran side by side with it and kept up with it, and had less day-to-day tweaking on it because, in my opinion, it was a better machine. But the other thing is that the vendor just flat out, he told a 100% flat out lie to the plant manager that I later worked for. But in typical fashions, that's just what they're trying to get their machine in. And but I want you to be aware, as you're going through with these things, that not all of your dealers are lying to you. A lot of times they're telling you the correct information, but we're hearing what we want to hear. And that's kind of what I'm putting this together for. When you're going out and you're looking for an edge bander, what am I going to be looking for? So in a follow-up video to this, I'm going to be doing 2 kind of duplicate videos. One is going to be walking through an edge bander from front to back, what stations do, why they do it, how they do it, and it's going to be a short walkthrough from front to back. And within that, when you have questions that will inevitably pop up, and you say, wait, you go back to that, and you want to know more information on that particular station. The second video is basically going to be a copy of the first one, but much more in depth and broken down in series through the machine. And it's purely going to be like a white paper discussion. I might do it here while I'm on vacation, since it's quiet. The kids are still in bed. We haven't headed to the beach yet. That kind of situation keeps the wife happy. She can sleep in a little bit, But what it's for is for a little bit more information from the administrative side, so you know what to realistically expect from an edge bander. A lot of times the people who buy these edge banders don't run the edge banders, so they have a lack of exposure to the machines that leaves them with a level of discomfort that they don't know exactly what the machine can or will do, or what just as importantly what it won't do. So working on that. So I hope you found this information useful. If so, give me a like, subscribe, the usual stuff down at the bottom. Leave me a comment. Hopefully that's the last of the interruptions, because I'm getting ready to hit the stop button here, and then we can move on from there. And hope to see you sometime, someplace. In the meantime, go make $1 million.